All right, getting started in just a second here. Just waiting for everything to load up. Should just take another second. Okay, looks good. And one more thing. How's everybody doing today? All right. Looks like my camera's not working again. There it goes. I have the Logitech Brio and I really regret buying it. I'm gonna do a little review on it later, but it has just not done any of the things I was hoping it would do. But anyways, that's a whole nother subject. How's everybody doing today? My name's Jason. Welcome to my stream. I stream my adventures creating and learning 3D art. And lately I've been working on this little barrel concept, or mug, excuse me. There we go, get you a little better visual on there. So yeah, I blocked it out in Blender, sculpted the details in ZBrush, and then I exported it back into Blender here. And I have it all ready to go, and I just thought I'd kind of like touch base on what I did. So I got it back into Blender, and this is the mesh, the whole thing, the whole object. Whoops, sorry, part of it was hidden. And if you go into object mode, you can see my my UV seams. It's kind of weird how it displays it in Blender. And if you're wondering, I gave my UV seams a custom color because in Blender they make the UV seams orange, but they also make the sharp seams red, I think. So it's hard to tell which is which sometimes. There we go, that's a little better. So yeah, UV wrapped it, or unwrapped it, I guess, and then I packed it. Got that, I'll show you that in a second. And then after I UV mapped it and packed it, I added the triangulate modifier. And then I made a duplicate of it. And then when I took that duplicate, whoops, sorry, wrong one. That's the high poly. I took the duplicate and it looks all funky because it's triangulated. And I split it into its major parts separately. For example, here we got the body of the barrel, or the mug, excuse me. And then we got the metal bands. Let me just open that UV up. Not sure what's going on there. Oh. And the reason I do that is so that it I can export it as one object, but whatever program you're baking it in will bake them separately. It's kind of like the old school exploded bake mesh thing. I'm not sure what happened here. It must have been something when I copied it, but you can see each piece and I named them accordingly. So yeah, just to repeat that, I UV mapped it when it was one whole object, and then I packed it, then I made a duplicate of that, and with the duplicate I separated each part so that they stay in the same area as far as their UV coordinates are concerned. Like that's why if you notice here, there's these big empty spaces, but that's where the other parts of the mesh are. Hopefully that makes sense. Basically, that saves you from having to recombine all your meshes together into one texture map. Because I bake my textures in Marmoset, but I actually do the texturing in Substance Painter. And I have my high poly here, and I have the parts with their matching corresponding name. I have the, let's go to the name here, the bands high, the body high, and the handle high. And I don't know if this is necessary, but I apply the same material to all parts, both high and low poly, but I just call it I have one material and I call it beer mug, since it's a beer mug. Anyways, and I have them exported out as FBXs. I just box select everything, file, export FBX, and for example, I have my beer mug high FBX and my beer mug low. Already got those done. I wasn't going to stream today, but I have a little bit of time before I have to head out and get some work going, but I figured I'd bake this, so I might as well share with you guys while I'm doing it. So there's the barrel, and then we will let's save this, save, and I'll just close this so I can free up some of my resources, hopefully, because baking can be a little taxing while you're streaming. Let me get a different background first of all. I kind of like this one. And we'll just go with yeah, that'll work. And we'll add a baker. That's that little bread loaf icon up there. Baker. And with Marmoset, although it is similar to Substance Painter, you do load things a little differently. You just select both your high and low poly. Beer mug high, beer mug low. Open. And see, I only have that one material. This is the default material that just launches with Marmoset. Just gonna go with color there. All right, so Marmoset, all you do is you go to each part that you split apart. For example, we'll start with the body. You can see it has this nice cage, as I like to call it, the force field. I mean, it is a cage, but and basically you just make sure your mesh isn't protruding or breaking that force field or the cage. And it's okay that it's intersecting with these, because the way, when you do it this way, it basically doesn't, the meshes basically aren't there as far as the baking is concerned. So it'll only bake the information in this cage. Like these other two parts might as well not even be there. And that way you get a nice clean bake. And that cage looks good. I don't need to do any adjusting. So I'll just close that. Hop over to the handle here. And this part sticking out is part of the metal, so I don't need to worry about that. That looks good. So we'll just call that good. It's a little bit of a not work, but it's a little tedious. You can see it's sticking out a little right here. I don't know if that's popping up. Let's get a different sky so it's easier to see. Maybe this one. Yeah, there you go. You guys see that right there? See how it's breaking the force field right there too? And I like to just think of it as anything that is outside of that force field gets destroyed. It gets crushed in the blast of baking. So you want to make sure that you get those in the little cage or force field. So I just boop. I know there's probably some guys out there rolling their eyes with me calling it a force field, but okay, so and then you just save your path. Let's see, we'll call this beer mug. And that's it for that. And I think we are good to go as far as the cages. And we'll turn the high poly off. And you turn the high poly off just because you're going to have to do it anyway to view it after you've baked it. And it's easier to do it now than after the fact. Or it just makes sense to me anyway to do it as you go through each mesh and adjust their cages. All right, so not just like, but very similar to Substance Painter, you get to choose the maps you want to bake. And in this case, I want to bake curvature, ambient occlusion. I'm going to add cavities. And I'm going to tick off ignore groups because I do want it to create the ambient occlusion between the objects, as opposed to each object as if it was on its own. I got a vertex color that I applied to the high poly, and that'll end up being my ID map. And I'll use that in Substance Painter to help kind of pick which parts of the mesh I want to paint or apply textures to. I'm going to bake the thickness and the position, because I will utilize those later in Substance Painter. I think that's it. Yeah, everything else will kind of be fine for now, but you have all these options here. Done, and then you just double check that you have them activated. Vertex color, position, and the normal. The object space normals. All right. And in the baker settings, I'm just going to go ahead and first, actually, you know what? Before I check all those, a good idea is to just do a test bake. I mean, regardless of what you're baking in, even if you're baking in Substance Painter, always just do a test bake at a lower resolution. And this way you can kind of just kind of skim around your object and make sure everything's looking decent. You know, before you apply like all the anti-aliasing and all that stuff. All right, looks good. I think we're gonna go for it. Ambient occlusion, vertex color, and we'll just do this at 4K because you can always downsample it. Better to bake it high and then down res it, then try to bake it at a lower res and then downsample it more, or try to upsample. You can always go down, but you can't really go up. All right, and I think we're good. So let's just bake that. This might take a minute, so bear with me. It does seem like it takes a long time, but considering that it's baking the like 4K maps with the 16 samples and all those maps together, it's pretty impressive. If you guys want to see the making of this, I have pretty much all of it on my YouTube channel. I stream them live, but you can check that out and kind of see the process I went through making this thing. Go, go, go. And speaking of YouTube, while you're there or while you're watching this, Make sure to like, subscribe, and hit that bell icon. That way you can get notified whenever I stream. I'm gonna start posting regular videos too, like pre-recorded stuff, but not anytime real soon. It's just something I'm kind of thinking of doing because I'm starting a new job soon, so I won't be able to stream as regularly as I have been, and I just want to find a balance between the two. But typically I stream 3 to 4 days a week. Tomorrow I'm gonna try again, but I'm moving on the 1st, so I have to break everything down and get out of here and have my apartment cleaned up, so I might not be able to do it. And there we go. All right, let's throw some textures on there just to see what we're dealing with. The specular map. No, we didn't bake a specular, but we did bake an occlusion. Oops, that was the wrong one. Beer Melgale. Ah, somehow that worked. Turn that one off. There we go. And cavity, that's the curvature map. Marmoset does a great job at just using the vertex colors. Let me throw a ground plane in there real quick and a light. So we can get a kind of a better idea of what it looks like. And that's not the texture I'm going to use. I mean, I guess I could use that. It does look fairly decent. But I'm going to take it in a substance painter and do a little bit of work in there. But I think that's pretty good. Pretty happy. I really enjoy working with Marmoset for baking. All right, and let me just save this real quick and I'll hop into Substance Painter. And I think we're good there. Let's open up Painter here. Man, I love doing like these little 3D projects. They're super fun. In Painter, if you're using Marmoset to render, or like sometimes I use Blender, the cycles renderer, you have to set your normal matte format to OpenGL. It was funny when I first, I'll just do 4K. First started using it, I was doing everything with the DirectX, and I kept trying to like bake or not bake, but like render my stuff out. And it just, the normals were flipped, so everything looked weird. I was like, it looks sort of right, but it doesn't look right. And what I'm doing now is I'm just importing the textures I baked in Marmoset. You hit this, let me turn that, close that. You hit the add if you have any maps that you bake. Some people bake them in XNormal, but when you want to import them, you just hit that add button, select the ones you want, and I want all the beer mug ones. And we will just hit open. And it brings those in and just sets them in your project shelf. All right, there we go. And see, I only have one texture. And that's for the workflow I'm using, that's really what I want. I don't want a bunch of extra textures in there because it'll when you export it, it does the opposite of what I did. Instead of having everything on one texture, it's all split apart. It's super inconvenient. But we'll just go through your mug, world space. That's this one, I think. Yep. ID. And typically, like when you do your ID map, you would pick some really like contrasting colors. I believe they call it clowning. There's a position, because it makes it very easy for you to the system and for you to see what's going on. There we go. Looks pretty good. It's amazing how differently each software program makes things look. Each one's just a little different. All right, and I have these smart materials that I made. I don't know if I made them right, because when I apply them, do the wood first. It doesn't always work. And mask color selection. All right, it worked. Yay. I don't know why. Sometimes it just doesn't work. I'm not quite knowledgeable enough yet to figure out why it doesn't sometimes. Or it'll work, but only partially. Like the metal, like that's not what I intend it to look like. For some reason, it doesn't respect the maps I brought in. Like it doesn't apply the maps that I imported. And I don't know why. Curvature, and I have to do it all manually, but it's okay, because at least I don't have to create the whole texture again. But it is a little annoying. I'll have to look into that and find out exactly what's going on there. So let's see. World space, position, thickness, curvature, and ambient occlusion. And it'll come to life in a second here. World space, position, bear with me, and ambient occlusion, and space, in thickness, curvature, and there we go. Yeah, a little annoying that I have to go through that every time, but I guess I'll try to rebuild it and see how it works. But I'll cycle through the maps real quick. See, that's the roughness, metallic, normal height. It's the masking. That's just my base color. And that's it. That's basically what I wanted to get done today. I only have a few more minutes. Perfect. I have to kind of get out of here by 2 o'clock. That's in 7 minutes where I'm at. But that looks pretty sweet. I'm pretty happy with that. So what I will do now is first off, I'll save this. And then I will export the textures. And I have a pre-configured setting for cycles. Oh man, I set them to the wrong folder. Cancel. Cancel. No, it won't let me. I always forget to do that. Don't. There we go. And then I will just go ahead and export it to the right folder this time. Those are like the little things you want to pay attention to. Like, I pretty much kind of ignored all that when I was first learning how to do pretty much everything, to be honest. But it just you end up paying the price because you you get lost in all your files and stuff, and it's such a headache. All right, let's do a quick render here. Maybe from that angle. There we go. How about we throw some post effects? Glare. Let's see, let's hit that glare. And I think that's it. And I will, what I'll do is I'll do the override, and we'll just do a 1080. Oops, 1920 by 1080. There we go. We'll just do 20, and we'll run it for 20 seconds. A sample. Let's see how we do. That looks pretty decent. Nice and cartoony. Oh, baking's done. I'm gonna save that. Excuse me. Beer mug. One. Screenshot one. Save that. All right. Let's just save that real quick. All right, guys, I gotta get going. I got 3 minutes. I think I pulled it off. Yeah, if you like this video, hit that like button, hit subscribe and that bell icon. That way you'll get notified as soon as I post the next live stream, which unfortunately won't be for probably about a week. And that's if the new apartment gets the cable set up, or I get the cable set up right away so I can get my internet set up. And I think we all know how that goes. But anyways, thanks for checking out my channel. And stay tuned for everything or whatever comes up next. It's going to be, I got some quick little benches I'm doing, but I think I'm going to take a break from the wood stuff, and I'm going to start working on some tiling textures, like for a stone tile floor and a stone walls, and probably some like a wood floor. And if you don't know, I'm building a diorama, like a little stylized kind of World of Warcrafty diorama set. But yeah, once again, my name's Jason. Thanks for checking out my channel, and I will see you next time. Thank you.